want to welcome everyone here to another Built with Heart podcast. We have a little bit of a special one this episode. We usually have an expert from Codeable, but on this special occasion, we have actually a staff member from Codeable who actually started as an expert and then stepped into the role of staff. So it's really great to have Hudson here.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here. I really love what you've done with the podcast. I watch them all religiously. Great work. Love to hear from our experts and from yourself.
I'm really excited to have you on this one. So with this one, it's a bit of a presentation style, but there'll be some back and forward, and we'll have a bit of a chat at the end. This will be focusing on kind of soft skills. So this is great for both experts on Codeable and just people sort of if they're working as a contractor in general. So I'm super excited for this episode. So yeah, we have quite a lot to get through. So I'll let you get started.
Okay, thanks, Andy. All right, so the lecture I prepared today is called Engineering Trust and Leading Clients. It's written for our experts at Codeable or anyone who's a contractor to teach soft skills. And I've broken it down into three parts. It's going to be writing focused, which is acquisition focused. It's going to be presentation focused to teach you how to be a better presenter of value. And then finally, it's going to talk about mindsets to help generate opportunity along your path as a contractor. So, to get started, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Hudson Atwell. I'm a partner and client success manager with the Codeable IO platform. My background is I've been building WordPress plugins since 2009. Before I worked internally with Codeable, I completed 100 tasks from 2017 to 2019 with the Codeable platform. I've been working internally with Codeable for 7 years, since 2019. I've held every role in customer support. And like I said earlier, I currently co-manage the client and partner success division at Codeable. How can I help you today? Why is my experience relevant to your profession? So let's get into that. In my role, I've reviewed thousands of projects on Codeable. I've worked closely with hundreds of experts and clients together in different contexts. I've built a clear understanding of what a successful outcome looks like from both sides, the contractor side and the client side. And I can offer practical insights into how experts can win an edge in a competitive environment. So, if I'm successful with this lecture, this is what you're going to learn today. This is the three parts I mentioned earlier. So, Arc 1 is acquisition, improved acquisition strategy. So, concepts that'll strengthen how you acquire clients and how you can stand out amongst your peers and how you can win projects. Arc 2 is techniques to improve long-term client loyalty through presentation and value delivery. And part 3 of this lecture today is improved business planning, mentalities to engineer opportunity through organizational driven mindsets. It's probably my favorite one. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Arc 1, we're going to be talking about several practical writing techniques that will systematically build trust and reduce client hesitation. The first framework I want to introduce is called the Rhetorical Triangle. It'll help you write effective and persuasive sales engagements. It'll ultimately make you a better writer just knowing that this framework exists. And then I want to talk about two other techniques that are very important in a correspondence scenario, and that's mirroring and expectation management, which both of them, if done right, will reinforce trust with whoever you're working with. And expectation management probably is the most important thing I'll talk about here today. But so yeah, if these techniques are applied to your writing skills, they should help signal competence, which is required as a professional, and inspire confidence in whoever you're engaging with, which is going to help move the relationship down the line. So let's jump into the rhetorical triangle. Okay. So I learned this either in high school or college, and it has been really impactful on me. And I'm actually surprised how many people don't know about it. So what the rhetorical triangle is, it talks about three appeals when writing a message. It's an appeal to ethos, an appeal to pathos, and appeal to logos. Ethos is credibility. You want to appeal to your credibility. Second is pathos. You want to appeal to the emotional nature of humans. And logos is you want to appeal to logic. And all three of those, when working together, form a trifecta. So these slides will go into the triangle in a little bit more depth. So ethos, it inspires credibility and leadership. And its traditional appeals are you will talk about your personal experience. If you have any credentials that complement your credibility, such as awards or credentials, you might mention those. You might mention past positive reviews from customers. All these build your credibility. But on the Codeable platform, we do things a little bit differently. We don't allow self-promotion, so we have to appeal to ethos in a different way. So at Codeable, this is how we do it. We have to illustrate a professional tone. We have to have perfect grammar, nothing lazy. We want it to be very well-formed sentences, punctual, capitalization, um, and we want to highlight Codable's credibility in general. Codable is the world's premier marketplace for WordPress contractors. It's really, there's no place better for WordPress developers. Everyone here is senior level, highly vetted. And anytime that our experts work with clients, we can point to the platform's credibility to build our own credibility. And that's perfectly allowed when engaging with customers. So ethos, appealing to credibility.
It's a really great appeal to kind of be able to not have that kind of trying to compete with the other experts, where you could skip that kind of trying to kind of self promote and yeah, just get straight into trying to help the client. And of course, everyone is an expert in the field of WordPress, so I really do believe that the Codeable appeal works really well on the platform with experts.
Thank you, Andy. I agree. And Andy, how long have you been an expert with Codable?
I've been an expert for, I'm not sure exact, 7 or 8 years, and definitely see it. It works. Everyone follows the rules, and it creates a really friendly environment amongst experts. And that's kind of why I think Codable has such a strong community internally, because you kind of don't feel like you're against each other, but more you're kind of all working on the same team, trying to, best fit the needs of the clients.
100%. Yes, and it does keep us from making it the me show, and instead it makes us the royal we show.
Yes.
So we do want to have some appeals to credibility in our writing. At Codable, we have to do it a little bit different, but that's fine. We're able to get by. The next one I want to talk about in the rhetorical triangle is pathos. It's the appeal to human emotion. So one of the things that we want to do when engaging with a client, they arrive, they have goals and they have pain points. We want to identify their pain points because that touches the heart of why they're arriving here. We want to show empathy when we can, because if they're struggling, like, we want to acknowledge how this impacts their business, and to bring the human side to it is part of our writing skill set. Um, we want to consider being complimentary. It's not necessary. We're not necessarily uh, sucking up, but if we see something that we like, sometimes it doesn't hurt to say it out loud, and it makes people feel appreciated. And it's just another angle that pathos can take in writing. Um, when we talk about how we can help, one of the biggest things we can do is we can portray or project uh, a future of success. We can, if they come with a problem, we can in writing say, yes, so this is you. We want to get you back on track, and we say all the things that if we are successful in our job, where they end up. And that projection of success is also an emotional pill. Think of it as a tension and release. You have your pain points, which is your tension, your success projection, which offers an avenue to the release that tension is created. So another great avenue that we can take with pathos. We want to offer assurance that we're the person for the job, and not only can we do it, it technically is within our success. And once again, we're taking away that apprehension that that maybe we're not the right candidate, or maybe they're wasting their time. No, if we can do it, we can do it. So that assurance is a healthy appeal to pathos. So the third and final aspect of the rhetorical triangle is logos, appealing to logic. So we have appealing to credibility, we have appealing to motion, and we have appealing to logic. So on this one, what we want to do is we want to be attentive to the questions that the client is asking. If we show that we can pay attention, then we show that we can comprehend their issue. If we ask good questions ourselves, that shows that we have a good comprehension of the issue that they're experiencing. And it shows that we're able to, once again, manage their situation from a technical perspective mentally. So, next is we need to be able to describe the problem clearly. So, basically, summarizing the issue that they have in a very concise manner displays our ability to understand the problem. And it's a strong appeal to logos, which is logic. Using specific data or metrics, if you can throw a number in there, that's a strong appeal to logic. Setting clear expectations. Setting expectations is part of expectation management. Uh, there's probably nothing stronger that you can do as a professional than set clear expectations and meet those expectations. And I'm actually going to talk about that more in the next few slides.
All of those were really great points. And I mean, I guess as soon as the client feels that you fully understand the problem, then they already sort of feel super good, like there's a really good feeling. And then obviously some people are technical and you can sort of get right into it, and some are not very technical at all, and I guess it just shows you have to know how to explain something to someone. Perhaps you have to get into a really technical conversation and the client is up for that, and then you also have to know when the client, you might have to step back and kind of really explain it in kind of simple terms, and that does make the client feel good. They feel involved, they feel like they're part of the whole process.
Yeah, and part of the rhetorical triangle as a framework, it's not about hitting every aspect. It's about having a quality control device to look at what you're doing and know if you hit the appeals. For example, for this slideshow, I entered into what I've done in my past and how I can possibly help you if I do a good job. Those are both strong appeals to ethos, credibility. It helps set the stage up for my other appeals. If I would have left those slides out, I would have been weak on the credibility side. Now, there's other appeals to credibility, such as being on this podcast in general, or like a warm introduction from you, Andy. But still, all those work together as a way for you to quality control your writing. And I prepared some examples of how this is actually used in writing. I can go over them real quick.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is a very generic message that you might see from an expert on Codable to a client. And I want to start out by showing an ethos. Hey, welcome to Codable. Thanks for taking the time to describe your issue. You're in excellent hands here. I noticed you asked some examples of past work. On Codable, you can explore each expert's experience directly through their profile. Simply click on a profile photo to review the background history and project examples. Now, that sounds like a customer support agent wrote it, and that's because they did. I wrote this. It's very generic. But the point is that we have several appeals to credibility. We say you're in excellent hands here at Codable. We mention the platform. We mention our past work and how to find examples that will show them how we've done in the past with other clients. So out of the gate, we're appealing to ethos. Next is the appeal to pathos. I understand how frustrating a broken checkout must be, especially when it directly affects your revenue. You clearly put a lot of care into building the store, and it shows. We absolutely can get this resolved and have your customers completing orders again smoothly in no time. Once again, very generic, but it gets to the point. It identifies the pain point, and it assures a path to a future where that pain point is taken care of. We have just tackled the emotional angle of the rhetorical triangle. Finally, the logos angle. The first step would be to replicate the issue in a staging and confirm whether the conflict is a theme or plugin related. From there, we can define the scope and timeline clearly. Do you happen to know if any of the plugins or the theme were updated around the same time that the issue started? Now, of course, in a real world scenario, these questions will be much more context defined, but for the sake of this illustration, what we've done is we started with our expectation management. We've said this is going to be the next step that you can expect. We're painting a future that they can visualize and understand. We are asking some questions that show that we're attentive to the actual context of their issue. Once again, just demonstrating a strong logical approach. And all these three messages, I mean, you're looking at three paragraphs. You really don't want to overwhelm the client with more than three paragraphs or about that size at this point. So, but they all show the rhetorical triangle in action. And Andy, I got to ask, before this, have you ever heard of the rhetorical triangle?
No, I haven't. It's super interesting, and like just looking at the example, and as you were saying, you were like these are very like standard. But honestly, looking at all of these responses, even though they might seem a little bit standard, but simple is often the best. And honestly, I think sometimes you could start over asking questions, which I know you might get into a bit later on. You've just asked a really small amount of questions. You haven't overwhelmed the client, and you've also sort of stated that yes, this is affecting you right now, and you're saying you have a sort of urgency to want to fix it. So honestly, if I was a client reading this, I would be feeling super safe and comfortable, and I would want to engage and explain. Yes, it is with the theme, or it is with the plugin, and you haven't gone deep into. You haven't assumed that they're a WordPress expert, and you haven't assumed that they don't know anything. You've sort of hit that middle ground there where you're talking about themes and plugins. So of course the client can come back and get super technical, or they could kind of get back and say, oh, I'm not really sure, and then you could sort of assess it from there. So honestly, this is a really great way, I think, to engage with a client.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, and just knowing about the framework is going to help you in the future. You'll think about it. It'll sit with you like it sat with me over the years. And you've mentioned a lot of things that are very important to our next slide, which is two other techniques that I want to go over. Okay, so I'll skip through this. Improper uses to avoid. There is the inverse of the rhetorical triangle. Like for codable, improper ethos is self-promotion, overuse of the I over the royal we. Basically, anything codable will not permit. But for pathos, you have negative pathos, pressuring the client, fear-based urgency, emotional manipulation of any kind. These are things that we want to avoid as negative pathos. Improper logos is asking questions that have already been answered by your colleagues. If you're not paying attention, the client's going to notice you're giving it not your all. If you ignore details in their description, you just gloss over it, that's bad logos. If you if you try to do too much, and you're just not paying attention to the tone, you are also showing some proper some you're just not doing as well as you could from the logos perspective. But I wanted to get into what you pointed out, the two other techniques that are very important when writing a good engagement. One is mirroring. It is important to pay attention to the writing style of your client, the length of their message, the facts that they have in their description, the questions that they're asking, their sense of urgency. And these things, you don't have to be symmetrical with them. You don't have to match their writing style. You don't have to match their length of message. But these are going to be aspects or clues in the client's communication that will inform how you should write your responding message. If their writing style is very short, they might not uh, have be inclined to long form messages. They might like to keep things on the shorter side. They might not have the attention span for it. They might just not be interested in longly written messages. If you miss the facts in their description and you just gloss over it and you don't raise up any of the topics that they've raised in their description, then you're not doing a good job at mirroring. If you miss that they have a sense of urgency, this needs to be done tomorrow, and you treat it like it needs to be done in whenever 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then you're missing the sense of urgency. There is reward for paying attention, and mirroring, it's not a rigid science. It looks for opportunities where mirroring makes sense. So look for opportunities where mirroring makes sense, but it's okay to be asymmetrical. And consider mirroring also another quality control exercise when double checking your writing and whether or not you're satisfied with how you're engaging in a client. And as I mentioned this because these are things that you mentioned just a moment ago, Andy. It's important to pay attention and mirror when you can. Next is expectation management. All right, so I cannot talk enough about expectation management. In your whole entire life, both professional and personal, expectation management uh, will drive your experience. Expectation management starts small. It doesn't start large. If you say that you'll reply in 2 to 3 business days, uh, that's small. That's not a big delivery, but it is huge because when you reply in 2 to 3 business days, you set the expectation and then you met the expectation. And when you meet expectations you set, it doesn't matter how small they are. They could be, I'm going to cough in 2 seconds. One, two, cough. Well, what I just said just came true. And when your projections are accurate, trust is built. And likewise, when you set expectations and you don't meet them, you're eroding trust, whether or not it's small or big. Of course, big items will erode trust harder, but the small items is if you don't meet your expectations on the small, that will also erode trust. And the more trust that you garner over time between you and your counterpart, the healthier your relationship is going to be, and the more effective your leadership is going to be. And likewise, the more trust you lose, well, you can compromise an entire relationship that way. And a trust-filled relationships makes the client more open to you and receptive to your professional suggestions. So between mirroring and expectation management stands out as the more critical. If you do and deliver on what you say, both small and big, people will trust you. You'll hold your station and you'll grow with your responsibilities. What you handle well, if you handle what you've been given well, you'll be given more if you want. So, Andy, that wraps up the first arc of this presentation. Um, so we went over the rhetorical triangle, we went over mirroring, and we went over expectation management. All are very critical when engaging a customer. Okay, all right. So the first section we went over talked about how to improve your writing and increase your ability to acquire clients. This section is all about presentation and value in presentation and why presentation is so valuable. And I try to communicate this through something, a framework called the sandwich method, which is so silly, but it's also because of its simplicity, it's extremely powerful and it's going to take you to the next level if you're not doing it. I would say that a healthy portion of the experts on the Codeable platform do employ this method, even if they don't call it the sandwich method. And that for experts who don't do it, I hope you're paying attention because this will take you to the next level if you apply it. So, the sandwich method, let's get into it. It's a powerfully simple framework. Why is it called the sandwich method? Well, one, because it's about communicating value. And when you're in a contract pre-hire, you want to communicate how you can help a client through creating a scope of work document. Now, you can give a scope of work inside of a comment area, but that's just not great presentation. In my opinion, and I've worked with Codable for 7 years, the best looking pre-sale value presentations come in the form of a PDF. And in the sandwich method, your first opening PDF is the bottom bread. It is a branded document delivered before the work begins that sets the expectations and builds confidence with your client. Okay. The next part of the sandwich method is the middle part, the filling. It's do the work. It's the actual delivery of the services that were agreed upon. And then finally, the closing bread, the top bread, is a closing PDF. It's a branded document delivered on completion that reinforces the value that you already delivered and opens the door to future upsells. So that's it in quick. Let's get into it a little bit more detailed. What goes in an opening PDF, the bottom bread? All right, so there's quite a bit of items on this because there's a lot that should go in your initial PDF. One, you want to case the project goal. You want to summarize the goals and pain points of the client you're working with. That should be the very first thing the client sees, an understanding of their problem and their pain points, because everything else is going to address that. Next is you want to case out your deliverables in the form of milestones. So your deliverables and your milestones. Next, you want to clarify maybe something you talked about that's not within the current scope of work that you want to possibly address later, but it needs to be clear that it's not going to be done in this round. So next is there might be assumptions and constraints that need to be defined. I'm not going to go into details on this one because I really don't know what it might be, but I see them in different PDFs presentations all the time. Next is dependencies and client responsibilities. Sometimes you can't do work until the client enables you to do that work, and that needs to be clear in the PDF if it's not been clarified in other places. Next is your timeline expectations. Like you've done your milestones and deliverables. Now you need to comment on the timeline if you didn't already comment on the timeline up here. So the timeline expectations definitely needs to be in there. Success criteria, it helps to project what success looks like if everything succeeds. Go ahead and add it in there. It's a great component to add to your pre-sales PDF. You need a communication policy. Mine is I respond in 1 to 2 business days or 24 hours. I don't work weekends typically. You might work weekends, and my office hours are 9 to 5. The client might need to understand what to do in case there is an immediate request, how to elevate it. Define your communication policy ahead of time so it doesn't come back in the future to bite you when you don't have a communication policy. So you can also establish shared understandings before commitment. So the opening PDF, it signals professionalism and structured thinking. All right, so the middle part, this is Superman eating a sandwich. Deliver the work, simple as that. Perform agreed upon scope defined in the opening PDF. That you use your structured scope as your reference point along the way. You follow your own communication policy. You document any decisions or trade-offs along the way in a notepad that you're keeping or in the workroom that you're working in. And you maintain alignment with your goals of a successful end result. There's value in the mill. So do the work. That's not the most important part about the sandwich method. I mean, it is important because if you don't do the work, then you can never get to the final piece of bread, which is the closing PDF. A lot of experts on here, they start with an opening PDF. They got that down, but they don't do a follow-up PDF that basically re-identifies all the value that you just applied. It is the extra step. It summarizes the work completed. It has a description of the delivered outcomes and the benefit the client is receiving. It has notes about the decisions or trade-offs that you made along the way. It is a confirmation that you completed the work. It recommends next steps or opportunities. Now, this is the one to focus on. Your final PDF, where you illustrate the value you just delivered, is your best opportunity to upsell. You're going to identify opportunities to take your client's website or project to the next step. If you're if you're a web contractor, that might be there's some performance work that could be done that goes here in your upsells. There's some SEO work that could be done that goes here in your upsells. If you just painted a room for a customer and you want to also quote how much it costs to take the texture off the ceiling and paint the ceiling white for your next step, put that there in your final PDF delivery if you're delivering PDFs to your clients. There is an argument that as a contractor in the construction or painting space, you should also be working with PDFs. I know that I wish my contractors did.
There's something else that I think is important as well. I mean, having that intro PDF is great. And yes, I do something similar to that. And I love during the whole work process, I like to give clients like an update. If it's a big project, at least once a week, but even every few days. And having a strict scope of work and milestones, it's very easy to say, I've finished milestone 1, 2, and the client really feels like they're involved in the whole process. It's very easy to say what's been done and what hasn't been done because you could just refer to the actual milestones without going into the huge amount of detail of what's been done. It's a really great way for the client to feel involved and to see if we're halfway through or 3/4 through. So I do love to always go back to that initial milestones, even during that second step, that process step, just to kind of keep the client involved.
100%. And the sandwich method doesn't need to be one PDF, do the work, another PDF. If you have a several month project that's baked into milestones, you can put middle pieces of bread in there. We've all seen the club sandwich. So that's the closing PDF. Not everyone does it. There's a strong argument that everyone should, because what it does, it reinforces the value you've applied. It looks super professional and it sets you up to create an upsell menu for your customers. And the image right here of this guy adding some salt to a meal, it's just that extra little bit going on. So it creates natural conversation for expansion. It provides a share. This is important. It provides a shareable artifact that propagates your branding. Let's just say that your project manager that you're working with, the client, takes the PDF to their boss, the COO, and their COO is really pleased with the work, and he shares it with his CFO and CEO. And these people, they're also impressed, and they have side projects. They have your branded asset in hand. They now have a business card, not only that shows how professional you are, it has a sign pointing to your name. They can come back and visit you. Your PDFs are marketing assets. And not everyone looks at it that way, but it is that way. And it should be looked at that way, because if you're just delivering your value in a contained project management area or a contained email area, those assets do not travel. Your PDF travels, it has legs. The next I want to talk about is the power of the uniform. Um, a well-structured and branded PDF does the following. It conveys belonging to a trusted organization. That could be codable if you wanted to use the codable letterhead. It could be your own team if you've invented a brand to represent your company. It conveys competence through visual consistency. It generates an aura of caring and inspires confidence in your work. So basically, if you've taken the time to do a well-structured presentation, it shows that you are attentive to the aesthetic of things. It also shows that you are confident enough to organize your data on paper in an asset, and this goes a long way. It it inspires confidence. If somebody sees that you generate a nice, well-formed PDF that explains your problem and lays out what they can do and lays out your pricing, it generates, as the kids say, aura. You know, you stand out. It's impressive. So the point of this, of the PDF, it's like your uniform. You need to do your best to look good. And although looks aren't everything, they help you deliver a message. And that helps create a positive impression on your customer. And you don't want to know who else has aura?
Oh yeah,
Goku.
absolutely, absolutely.
Be like Goku.
Yes,
You want to know who else cares about presentation? Pilots. Look how handsome they are.
absolutely.
And people trust them with their lives. All right. So I've already went over this, but the PDFs offer natural upsell opportunities. There's a phrase, you want to strike while the iron is hot. When you're moving metal, the iron is heated, and it only moves when you strike it and it's heated. If you try to move it when it's cold, you might break it. But if it's warm, then you might can move it to where it needs to go if you're trying to make like a sword, for example, or a blade. So the PDF, when you deliver your final PDF in the sandwich method, you've now delivering an asset at a very warm point in time. This is a great opportunity to offer your next steps. It's probably the most natural opportunity to offer the next step in a business arrangement is when the first arrangement concludes. You're also engaging in a restaurant theater experience. You are the waiter or the waitress. It's your job to offer them options and not pressure. Just show them what's available and say, when you're ready, I'm ready. And that way you're giving them a good experience, and it's not a high pressure experience. The PDF the PDF also offers a brochure experience. Future improvements, they feel like opportunities, casual browsing. It's not. Once again, it's not pressured sales. So it's a service experience. It's a passive brochure browsing experience, and it is the best opportunity to issue an upsell as well. All right, that is the end of Arc 2, basically where we talked about the sandwich method and how we can use value presentation to our advantage to inspire confidence, to close, to be more competitive amongst our peers and to win more projects, to retain your customers through continual professionalism. You just impress them when you show them those PDFs, both before and after. If you can do both of them, it's hard to get more impressive than that. And that's going to help with your retention and your reacquisition. They're going to come back to you to work with you more because you're doing the most. You are doing the most in the most professional way. You'll look good while you do it. Um, so those are my two arcs that talk about frameworks. The final arc talks about mentality and generating opportunity. So there's things that we do in our life that if we do them, it's statistically it's going to open up opportunities. It's going to increase the probability of you having opportunities that you can act on. And I'm about to tell you a story that can be applied to anything in your professional or personal life. Okay, this is the story of the stone sorter. So, a man who wanted to open up a new plot so he could start farming started working on it. It was really stony, so he had to clear it. First, he gathered the largest stones into one pile, then the smaller ones into another pile. And he continued with this method until he had 10 organized piles of similar sized stones. The neighbors laughed at him. They said, "Look at this man fussing with his stones." They simply, when they cleared their fields, tossed all their stones into one big stone heap. Then one day, a builder arrives. The builder passes by and he sees the 10 organized piles of stone in the field. And he immediately approached the farmer and bought all piles of stones for 20 pieces of silver, which in the time of this parable was an enormous amount of money. It was healthy. And the builder set up camp for the evening to have all the stones loaded into his caravan because he was on his way to the city for a large building project the next week. And the farmer's neighbors, they noticed the activity and they rushed over and they said, "Hey, look here, builder. We have similar stones from our work and we can sell them to you as well." And the builder's response, "Your stones I would first have to sort out, which would take me a great deal of effort and time, which I just don't have. These stones here are already sorted just as I need them now. I would rather overpay for these than accept yours for free." And so the neighbors, they tried to sort their stones afterwards, working late into the evening while the builder loaded the stones and camped for the night. But it was too late. The builder had what they needed and they promptly left in the morning. And the neighbors, they exerted a lot of effort that night for nothing. The lessons: always try to be as organized as possible. When somebody comes with an offer, they're sure to go for with who has the best order. And this goes back to the sandwich method and your presentation. A later effort to organize is often in vain. So you want to start organizing when you identify opportunities to organize as early as possible. It may seem silly to be organized, but it's not. It's prudent. People will pay premiums for well-organized material. And at Codable, we want to offer them those premiums. We want to offer them the organization so we can live up to any expectation of our sense of offering premium work, which we do. All right, so the tools for organization, these are going to be familiar to everyone. You can use ClickUp to organize your ideas and thoughts as you go with the client. You can use Evernote or Joplin to keep client profiles of everyone you work with. You can use the private comments area to jot down notes as you work with customers in whatever workroom environment you're working with. You can use Notepad++. I like to use Notepad++. Any system that allows you to help sort the stones that you identify. And of course, stones are a metaphor for any insights that you have about a client experience along the way. Um, let's go back to the painter topic. If you're a painter and you notice and you've been hired to paint a room for a customer and you in conversation notice that they're also interested in doing like the master bed and bath at a later point in time, go home and write that into your notebook. Don't let that knowledge just live in your brain. Write it down. So when you need to generate more work in the future, you can refer to your list of needs of clients that you worked with. You're very organized. Finally, another mentality that I want to go over is we've all heard about the phrase always be closing. It's the idea that you're always trying to make a sell. It's the traditional sales mindset. It's transactional thinking. It's short term. Like we got to close. We got to get this customer on board. There is a pressure to close the deal, even though we don't really deal with emotional pressure. That's a negative pathos. But in the spirit of always be closing, that's traditionally what it means. It's getting them to fund. It works for acquisition, but that's not what the concept I want to illustrate. The concept I want to illustrate is going to help you with scaling and maximizing your relationship potential and generate opportunities. That's always be opening. The best expert on the platform, when they identify that the relationship is scope creeping, as we like to call it, or growing in a new direction that we were not expected for, that's not a drag. That is an opportunity if managed correctly. The idea of always be opening is to keep a lookout for the client's needs. It's to care about their business. It's to identify things along your way while you're doing work for them that would also improve their situation and record that there. And then when you find the right opportunity to open the conversation about it. So it's not always, I've got this job, I want to get paid this 7 grand, and then I want to move on to the next person. It's I've got this relationship. I'm doing 7 grand of work for them, and I've noticed an additional 4 grand in opportunity along the way if the client is open to it. Now, as I'm the professional, I am essentially leading them. I'm their technical mentor. If I can offer them in an organized way avenues to also improve their website, and I price these for them, and then I'm hands off, no pressure. Whenever you're ready, let's do this. I've just opened several different doors. So it's really about mindset and attitude. If you notice yourself wanting to just get out of there as fast as you can, you have to take a step back and look at yourself and say, am I operating with the right attitude? I mean, because obviously I'm not handling the I'm not identifying and managing the future opportunity that is potentially there. I'm just trying to get out of there, and that's not where you need to be. In my personal and professional opinion, you should always be opening. Of course, you should still consider always be closing if you want to put a little bit of pressure, but really, always be opening those doors, setting up the pins so you can knock them down later. So let's go through these real quick. Open new pathways for clients, identify growth opportunities, present ideas at the right time, build long-term relationships. So that's it, Andy. That is my whole presentation.
That was a really insightful presentation, and it's really great to hear, and that's sort of why I've wanted to have you on a podcast, because you have that great insight being both on the expert side and then now being on the staff side, and you have actually worked in support as well. I mean, you aren't in support anymore, but you do have that insight of really hands-on experience with experts and clients. So I'd say you are one of the best people on platform to kind of talk about this. So yeah, it was really great hearing and the first part, the triangle, and those kind of 3 different points.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure. I feel like these frameworks, these ideas, they nudge us just a little bit to be a little bit more professional version of ourselves when we're serving clients. I know they stick with me, and I always reference them as quality control. Yeah, so it's a real pleasure, Andy, to be able to deliver this lecture to our experts and anybody else who is listening and might find them valuable. And hopefully you've heard some things that you've not heard before.
Honestly, it was a really, really great presentation.
Well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, the idea there is that if you are as organized as possible, through your organization, you are going to set yourself up for opportunity. It just happens that way. I have a running joke with my wife that hoarding isn't necessarily bad if you had good inventory management skills and the space to put things. Now, we all work with limited space, but I really do feel that way. If it was up to me, I'd have a whole warehouse where I sorted everything well. I don't know what that says about me. I don't have a warehouse, but all the frameworks here, like you said, they're so simple,
Yes.
so simple. It's almost embarrassing how simple it is. Like the sandwich method. I'm blushing. I'm blushing because it's that simple. The rhetorical triangle, very powerful. I didn't invent that. I was taught that. So to be able to reshare that with someone who hasn't heard that, that's not that's not me. That's just education propagating itself. It's a very strong quality control mechanism. And it it informs all forms of presentation, not only long form writing in a workroom, it also informed how I created the slideshow. It informs how I make a marketing video if I need to make a 2 or even a 20-minute marketing video. Am I hitting my points or am I falling short somewhere? Yeah, a good tool set.
I just have one more question now. I usually ask this question. We have a Changing Lives series, which I don't know if you've seen it before, but I interview experts and
Love it.
they kind of talk about their experience being on Codable and how being on Codable has changed their lives. And I just have to ask you this question. I think you're a great person to ask. I ask every expert on that series if there's a WordPress developer out there looking to join Codable and become an expert, what advice would you give them? And I think this is a great question for you, especially after this presentation. What advice would you give that person sitting here watching this on YouTube thinking, oh, I'd really love to join the Codable platform? What advice would you give them to kind of really help their chances to be a successful expert?
So there's a lot to this. One of the advices that I would take is well, first I want to clarify the opportunity that Codable provides. It's unmatched. It's very unique and it's very real. Experts who enter into this platform and do a well job, they have an opportunity to make a, a career out of it, to supply income for their family. And anybody that they care about. So this is a meaningful change for those who approach it seriously. Second, it is a limited hangout. It's driven by supply and demand. So it's difficult to get in here. It's not impossible. But if you do get in here, it's important that you do your best to protect this opportunity because Codable is a fountain of excellent opportunity. And then finally, what I would like to say is that there's a lot of people who would love to be here. So if you do make it on here, treat it preciously because it is precious. And if for some reason, if you mismanaged it, there is other people who would be more appreciative of this space because this space is so powerful for those who are able to engage with it. I only wish that Codable had more opportunity. And if anybody is out there listening to this and they would like to partner with Codable and take advantage of our excellent expert base, we deliver the strongest quality and if you're one of our partners, we will treat you so well. And it's just our goal to bring more opportunities to our experts because they deserve it, and we make sure that they remain in their best states through educational presentations like these skill set chats and our Changing Lives series and our weekly Friday meetups where we talk with everybody who's willing to have a conversation and do show and tell with us. We stay on, we keep our thumb on the pulse of the WordPress ecosystem and all tangential ecosystems. It's just you cannot, as a body and a community, you cannot say enough good things about Codable. The only shortcoming is that we want to support more customers. So please allow us to help you and anyone else you can think of. So
There is anyone out there, I mean, obviously this is a kind of presentation about kind of how to improve your skills at kind of soft skills selling. But yeah, if there is anyone out there who is interested in kind of starting a WordPress project, I mean, I can highly recommend Codable. It is really great to have you on.
okay, Andy. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for this opportunity. Really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thanks so much for doing this. Thanks everyone for listening in. And yeah, look forward to seeing everyone on the next one.